Hi, I'm Arnie Gunderson from Fairwinds. I'd like to talk to you today about some new photographs that were just recently released by Tokyo Electric. First is the cover surrounding Fukushima Unit 1 is almost installed. Now, that doesn't mean it's airtight, but it's better than what was there before. What they'll do with that cover when it's completely installed is they'll take the gases that are being created inside the nuclear reactor and they'll run them through filters and go up the stack. So it doesn't eliminate all of the radiation, but it does capture it and send it up a stack to a much higher elevation. But the liquid radiation is not being trapped by this barrier. It's a start, and it's a good start, but they're not there yet. More importantly, TEPCO just released some pictures of Unit 3, which are worth taking a look at. Now, to back up a little bit, you'll recall that as the accident began back in March and April, we dissected some videos of the explosion in Unit 1 and compared it to the explosion in Unit 2. I'll show you those right now, and they're quick. The first one blows outward, and then Unit 3, on the other hand, after an initial spark, an initial flame front on the south side, blows upward. Unit 3 is much more dramatic and much more powerful than Unit 1. Okay, now Tokyo Electric has released a new photograph. The first photograph is taken from behind the building, so you're still looking out toward the ocean at a slightly different camera angle. The fuel pool is on the south side, which is the right of this picture. Look in the center of the building. First off, the roof has collapsed, and there's a large, kind of a gray structure in there. That's the trolley for the overhead crane in the middle of the building. That crane is used to lift heavy components like the nuclear reactor head, and it's also used to lift shield plugs that go over top of the nuclear reactor before it starts up after every refueling. So the crane has collapsed, but it's in the center of the building. Now the next picture will pick up right at that crane again. That centers you in the building. And the right side is the south side toward the fuel pool. The center still has the roof girders over it. Now the roofing is gone, but the roof girders are still in place. Roof's collapsed almost straight down on that crane. But look over toward the fuel pool now. When you look at the fuel pool, there's no roof left. As a matter of fact, one of the major structural beams is cracked in half. I think that shows what I've been saying since April, that the explosion occurred over the fuel pool initially. That's where the dramatic energy was released, over the fuel pool. Now, the industry's position is that this is just another hydrogen detonation. In fact, it's not. If it were hydrogen gas, that entire building would be uniformly distributed with hydrogen, and the explosion would have just started and moved slowly from one end of the building to the other. But it would have been uniform. This picture clearly shows that the reaction was not uniform and that it started over the fuel pool. Now, related to the fuel pool, of course, is the fact that the rubble has now fallen into the pool. And you can see it's obviously disrupted. It will be really hard to determine the exact cause of that fuel pool explosion. I still believe that it was prompt, moderated nuclear criticality. Only time will tell, but it's a theory that accounts for the explosion on that side of the building, accounts for the energy release on that side of the building, and the fact that there's no roof there anymore. It also accounts for the fact that fuel fragments were found near the building and were bulldozed under, and fuel fragments were found as far as 1.5 miles away. The only way that could happen is if the nuclear reactor fuel that's stored in that pool were pushed upward by an explosion. That can't happen with a hydrogen explosion, but it's quite possible with an inadvertent criticality like I postulated. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about today is a reanalysis of an old Tokyo Electric video in light of this new photograph. Now, this video was taken about 16 days after the accident. And you'll see a large amount of steam coming out of the floor. This is in Unit 3, and above it is that girder for the traveling crane. That means that the steam is in the middle of the building, not over the fuel pool. The fuel pool wouldn't steam like that. The fuel pool would be much more gentle, almost like a lake with fog over it. But this steam is being pushed out, and it's occurring in the middle of the building. Well, what that tells me is that the containment underneath that crane has been damaged. The containment is leaking. There's no way that amount of steam could be getting out were it not for the fact that the containment is leaking. Since then, we've continually seen steam coming out of Unit 3 in the center. So I think we've got two things going on here. I think we had an explosion that occurred on the south side over the fuel pool, and I think there's a damaged containment. I don't believe that they're a simultaneous event, but I think it's important to recognize just how seriously damaged Unit 3 really is. I'll keep you informed as the situation develops. Thank you.